Ia manuia lau mai mua mai I le nei paupopo mga tātou prokalama o le KokoBytes. Talofa and welcome to our program KokoBytes, where we keep your cup of Koko Samoa hot and rich with innovations and creativity in American Samoa's tech community. I am Ginger Porter with my co-host Michael McDonald from the American Samoa Department of Commerce. Talofa lava, Michael?
Talofa, Ginger, good morning. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
Doing great, doing great. Another beautiful day in paradise back here.
Yes, absolutely. So we've been having very positive and good conversations in the last couple of weeks with the different people and different experts in the field of telecom and technology. And so I think we're building a good rapport here with, hopefully, with the community, sharing information, sharing resources, and just telling people stories, right?
Right. Talk stories, as they call it in Hawaii,
yes.
Right?
Yes. So, and that's why I also take from the word talanoa, right? So this talanoanga that we do, and it could be formal and informal. So that's the magic of this. So.
Right. And it's been a good conversation. I agree with you. The topics are all broadband based. Obviously, the whole point of our show is to heighten the awareness, right, of our capabilities now that the Hawaii submarine cable is live and running on all cylinders. And today's conversation, I think, is going to be very interesting. A few of our guests thus far have mentioned the possibilities of things that we can do with this newfound resource, and coding has popped up multiple times. And so I'm excited to have this discussion today with our guests, who you'll be introducing here in a couple of minutes. So looking forward to this conversation and keeping the talanoanga moving, right?
Yes. I think that's, the excitement of new things, right? And that possibility. We can't be as excited. I mean, it's always exciting when we find new avenues to do things. Right. And so our guest today is doing some of that, developing the skills that we need to push some of these initiatives and opportunities for American Samoa. So I'm going to go ahead and bring him into this conversation.
Okay, great.
But it's exciting things that are happening at the American Samoa Community College.
Right, here on the ground, here at home, it's happening.
Yes, absolutely. And I think our guest might be having some technical issues.
Oh, there he goes.
Oh, wonderful. Talofa lava, Chris. Oh, you're on mute. Talofa. So Michael and I were just sharing in the beginning of the, so many developments and possibilities that's happening on the ground, right where you are at the American Samoa Community College. So we officially welcome you to KokoBytes.
Thank you.
And such is technology and the mobility of technology. We take the good in with the bad, right? So our phones going off,
this is not stage stuff. We're doing this off the cuff.
Best way to do it.
Right, absolutely.
So Chris, tell us about yourself. Where are you from? What school did you go to? People are eager to learn about Chris Magalei.
I don't know about all that. Anyways, so I was born in Hamilton, New Zealand. I was raised in Maumalo, which is basically Faleniu. I attended Maumalo Kindergarten. This was back in 1980. Then from there, I went to Pavaia'i Elementary. Finished 8 years there, then on to Tafuna High School. Graduated in 94. Carried on to BYU-Hawaii for 2 years. After BYU-Hawaii, I went to the United States Airforce and became an Intel operator. In 2000, I started with ASTCA as a mobile networker. I actually started in switching And at the time, we were migrating the old analog system into the digital. In 2004, I introduced, we ushered in 3G technology, 1xRTT, which is the original or what started mobile data. From there, we were able to expand to EVDO with the CDMA technology. It's a Qualcomm technology in 2008. And believe it or not, after we had started up 3G here in American Samoa, I actually worked with Mobi in Hawaii to start their 3G services. At the same time, I was assisting with Saipan in turning up their 3G services. So American Samoa, you could say, was the first in the Pacific. Locally owned telecom, we started 3G in 2008 ahead of New Zealand, Tahiti, Australia. We actually introduced it to the Pacific. I worked for ASTCA for about 13 years. Felt that I had enough of technology at the time. Needed a year off. I was happy. I was lucky to be picked up by Medicaid in 2014 to 2015. I think you were part of the HIT program at the time, Ginger?
Yes, I was.
Yes, I helped them Medicaid with that, with the HIT program. From there, I was transferred to the governor's office. And then in 2017, I returned to ASTCA and migrated them from 3G to 4G LTE. The difference between ASTCA's 4G LTE and versus Blue Skies, ASTCA deployed not only just their LTE for data, but the VoLTE, which is voice over LTE, and they're currently bringing up their voice over Wi-Fi. So that's actually a true 4G network that ASTCA is deploying right now. Before I left ASTCA and joined the Stratus team, one of the biggest things that has plagued American Samoa for quite some time, and I expressed this to my management, is we've had the technology, it's just that we don't know how to apply it. And that's basically what it's been. And even now, with the 4G LTE and the Hawaii, we're still not maximizing. It's been 2 years now? And we haven't fully deployed or maximized the usage of the cable. We're now just scratching the surface. So when I met up with Mike, I was actually happy with the initiative that's been taken. I don't know if anyone has ever done the research, but going back to 1960, American Samoa has broke the mold in telecommunications every 10 years. 1970, we introduced off-island calling, long distance. In the latter part of the 80s was when they introduced mobile, which was the old analog Motorola system. 1998, we introduced internet. 2008, we introduced mobile data. 2018, we introduced Hawaii. So every 10 years, we're breaking the mold, and yet we rest on our laurels. And I think I'm not getting any younger. It's time to for 2028, you know. That's basically it, and here we are today.
Well, that's hey Chris, that's a great timeline, and I'm so glad you shared that. I think these things kind of get forgotten, right? You know, American Samoa has been at the forefront in our region in telecom, and ASTCA's been the mover and the shaker, and here we are again in 2020 now, of course. And the whole point of this talk show and the territorial broadband strategy that we're working on is to really do what what you referred to, and that's to maximize and leverage the resource. And yeah, I think we all recognize that we've just scratched, you know, the surface. There's a lot more that needs to be done. But thank you very much for giving our audience and Ginger and I a little history lesson, because it's important to know where we've come, because man, we still have a lot to do and a long way to go. But I wanted to ask you about what you're doing today. Of course, you're with StratusWorx, and when I first heard about StratusWorx, I met with Dr. Sharma. He did a presentation out at ASTCA, and the information flow sometimes here on island can be a little start and stop. So it was a little unclear, but having met with you multiple times now, I now have a good idea about what you're doing out there at ASTCA. So I would like to ask you if you can tell us a little bit more about StratusWorx, what you do, and who are the people running the program.
So StratusWorx, commercially, we're a cloud service provider. And when I mean cloud service, we've gone from VDI, which is a virtual desktop interface, to a cloud-based. And let me just break that down. So the main difference is cloud computing. Everyone uses it. They just don't know it. Gmail, Facebook, Twitter, anything that you access via an application is cloud computing. We've taken that platform and sort of used it at the business at the enterprise level. One of the biggest fears that people have with their networking is that if their servers fail on site, well, hopefully they have backup tapes or some sort of backup storage where they can recover that information.
Hopefully.
Go ahead. But what we do using the Azure platform is we take that information and we store it at multiple data centers around the U.S. There's some regional restrictions that or red tape that policies that we use. So basically, if you're an enterprise on cloud computing, that's one fear that we've taken from you. The fact that your data could be lost via natural disaster, via foul play. Locally, for the STEM initiative, like what we've done at ASTCA, it was our dream to sort of introduce coding. And me being in technology for the past 20 plus years, everything's going back to coding. Cloud computing is sort of a software-driven platform. Recent researches with Cisco on their SD-WAN development, they're also going back, and SD is system-driven WAN, which is wide area network. Everyone's going to that. They're going to a sort of a virtual setup, which makes sense. It's easy on your capital expense and quicker on your operational expense. But so the idea here now, especially being here in American Samoa spends millions of dollars, especially with the Treasury for their one solution, I believe. And before that, it was IFAS. And all it is just people that can code, that can speak the computer language to get the computer to do what they want. One of the things we try to emphasize to our kids is sort of inspire them. One of our programs, MIT Scratch, is your basic computing. Now, Mike Ginger, back in the 80s, the introduction of Nintendo and Atari, those 8-bit games, well, that's what MIT Scratch does. Some of in our program, we've actually had our students build Pac-Man type games, program Super Mario type games. Right. And the intention is to inspire them that what we thought was magic 20 years ago really isn't. It's just a language. Some of our students ask what the importance of coding is, and we tell them it's a computer language. When they ask what can they do with it, if they know it, and some it's not enough to know, you have to do the research. Knowing a computer language is no different from knowing the English language. Just because you can speak it doesn't mean you can write a term paper or an essay. Coding language, computer language is the same thing. Just because you can write it, it doesn't mean you can build it. You still have to look for the body, look for the intent, and all of that. So the idea is, especially with our education, you have a lot of people come back and say, I have a degree. The next question is what you're doing. What are you doing with it? So It's not to know it, you have to know to apply it.
Mm-hmm. Right. So for the benefit of our audience, Chris, you guys are specifically introducing students to MIT Scratch and then yes. Java. So two different classes, if you will.
Right. So MIT Scratch is what you can do with it, and then Java is the actual building block.
Right. Now, if I remember correctly, you had shared with us previously that the class is set up so that you have two classes during the week for 10 weeks, each class running an hour and a half, right? And you have, as a matter of fact, you have your next learning session coming up soon, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so can you share a little bit with our audience when exactly registration opens up and how they might go about registering for the class?
Registration opens up on Monday, and it's at STEMAmericanSamoa.com.
Okay, STEMAmericanSamoa.com. And how many students are you accepting for this learning session this semester?
We actually don't have a limit. The classes are based on the amount of students. So the bigger the student base, the more classes we'll add.
Okay,
So,
and is there a registration fee for the course?
there is. It's a $500 for the 2 sessions together, one time. What goes on in the background, because we're contracted by World Technologies Foundation, they actually absorb $9,000, and then the $5,000 comes from the student.
500.
Yes.
Right. Well, excellent. Now, how many students have you guys already managed to get through the full class and training?
For the first class, we have about 44 students that completed. The Java course, we have about 23.
Those are great. Those are great numbers. And then looking at it, this is how long has it been since you established the program? Like, this is the number what?
Our first class was September of last year.
Oh, so a year, just about a year, right?
Yes.
And 44 students have gone through the program.
Yes, have completed the
That's
program.
fantastic. That's really fantastic. Can you share a little bit about from the skill level to what opportunities those students that have gone through your program, where are some of they now? Like, where are they utilizing these newly acquired skills?
We have 3 that are interning with Cisco from here in American Samoa.
Oh, wow.
I have one that's in training with Stratus, with my company. Some of the biggest problems we've had because of the COVID-19, by the time we were done with it, we were kind of late in applying for the internships. But we've already got commitments from these companies that if we're able to finish on time as of April of next year, the internships for next summer, I've already got 10 internships with Cisco for next year. There's also Tech Mahindra and a couple other companies that we're negotiating with. Because it's still new, the idea is after this semester, I want to reach out. The other instructor and I, we've been given the go-ahead to expand our curriculum. So some of the training you should expect is DevOps, DevNet, and CCNA routing and switching. And the idea is to meet up with the local offices and businesses and see what type of IT skills that they require within their offices, and maybe we can provide training for that. Another thing that we're training is the Azure fundamentals. There's a big demand for virtual machine designers or operators. And that's also part of a training that we're hoping to introduce by January of next year.
Wow. So just so that it's clear for our audience, Chris, you guys, upon completion of the coursework through your program, you do definitely support making that connection between the student and a potential employment opportunity.
That is correct.
And that right there, Ginger, is fantastic. You don't have to leave home. We've been talking about this, for weeks now, being able to create a career opportunity here in American Samoa whereby people can stay home, enjoy living in paradise, right? Take care of your family, and still make a great a salary and a career. That's great, Chris. I assume that the feedback you're getting from your students has been very positive.
It has been. It just so happens that our second semester, it's 2020, and Murphy's Law, what could have gone wrong did.
Now, let me ask you this question. How old is your youngest student?
My youngest student is 13.
13. I think I know the student. This is why I'm asking.
I think you do. You may, and he's actually one of my top students.
Yeah, it's a nephew of mine, bright kid. But the question is, you don't have to be an adult, graduated. If you have an interest in coding and you have that enthusiasm or curiosity to get into the field, as you had pointed out, there's a demand locally for it. And again, you don't have to leave the island to be able to provide your own talent and services to a potential employer like Cisco.
So, we done a little bit of research on all these, in Hawaii, we say the Haimakamaka coders, right? The kings of the kings in the coding world. And they all started at 10 years old, 8 years old. I'm like, okay, people, but it's really great. That speaks to this transgenerational, transformational thing that we've been talking about in the last sessions, that technology is across the board for everyone. So Chris, what do we need to do as a community to support the development of a generation of coders?
Education. I mean, I'll be frank. I left BYU because I thought I didn't need a formal education, or maybe because they didn't have what I was looking for. And I looked towards other avenues like certifications and on-the-job experience. Now, in my latter years, I realized that a lot of difficulties we face is because we just lack the basic education. One of the biggest things I heard this from a friend, we have science fairs every year for as far back as I can remember. How many scientists do we have? Maybe one that I can think of? Every year you hear these gubernatorial campaigns, education. But I'm sitting there and I say, well, what education? That's like saying, if you want to go on a diet, eat good food, but you need to eat the right food. So with education, from my personal view, is we need to direct our kids to the right education. One of the biggest things we lack here is engineering. I mean, we have the water channel over there by Alu, but we don't have the engineers to build tidal generators and get power out of it, sustain our, So my recommendation is that it's an outreach, and there's a reason why outreaches are important, education is important. We need to educate our people on what coding is, what it does. If anyone who thinks that computers are important and it's the future, well, they need to understand that without coding, this doesn't happen. Right? Everything, coding is the basic foundation of the computing world, be it networking, be it computing, be it whatever field. It was all derived from coding, and that's my understanding. That's the way I feel about it.
Well, great. Thanks for sharing that with us, Chris. I think perhaps moving forward, partnership with you and your team there at StratusWorx and the folks here on our territorial broadband strategy crew can continue to get the word out and do some of that outreach that you referred to. So parents are talking about it, so teachers are talking about it, so students are talking about it, and then we can start to connect the folks who are interested to the resources to get it done. So thank you very much for sharing that. Very much appreciated.
Thank you.
Yeah, so Chris, thank you so much for your time today and appreciate the information sharing. I want to, just to build off of what you said, right? It's not just education, but the right kind of education. So being that I do sit here at the University of Hawaii in Manoa, I know exactly what you're talking about. So yes, we do need collectively as a community to do a little bit of a better job in providing the right type of education, so that students who are coming out here to the University of Hawaii, who I'm intaking, right, transitioning to me here, have kind of already some guidelines. So not just here's a scholarship for you, go out there and learn something, right? But put some parameters around it. So if other countries can do it, specifically you go learn about coding, did it 1-2 technology, we can set up those parameters as well. And, hopefully we get the return in that investment in young people through education, and especially in technology. So Chris, thank you so much for your time today. We appreciate this talanoanga, and we hope to cross paths with you sooner than later.
We're looking forward to it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chris.
So that conversation with Chris and offering the right type of education.
Yeah.
I appreciate that comment. Like I said, being in academia myself, we want to be able to meet the needs, right? Eventually, we are an incubation center to prepare people for the workforce. And we want to, by the time they leave us, they should have something to offer the workforce. That's in our structure here, that's what we want in academia, not just the academic side, but also the skills to go with it, to prepare them to enter the workforce. So I appreciate that comment about having the right type of education for our people.
Right. You know, we talked also about STEM and the trades and going specifically perhaps into a training curriculum, specific to coding. You know, you have your traditional college career path. You know, you go, you get your education done. And I think Chris had mentioned, or he alluded to, that at one point he recognized that perhaps that wasn't what he wanted to do, right? So he kind of got out, he went to work and he got his education, you know, on the job, or perhaps he went to a trade school and got the technical certifications. And that's fantastic because, you know, it's been my experience that, and this is perhaps unique to the ICT industry, but the industry values certifications much higher than they do a 4-year degree, right? And that does appeal to many people and to employers specifically when they're looking for somebody who has a subject matter expert level in something that they need. You know, they could care less about going, you know, someone who has a 4-year degree or even a master's degree in computer science or computer engineering. They want to know that you can do very specific tasks. And these trade schools that are out there are one fantastic path to get to the point where you have qualifications that are very high priced. Some of these guys in the industry make a lot of money and they make fantastic careers out of it. So yeah, no, getting an education in the trades, specifically the STEM trades, is a great career path. And I'm glad he brought it up because I'm a big advocate of the trades. And, you know, there's a balance, you know, your traditional approach and then, of course, going to trade schools. But yeah, no, coding, going back to the topic of today, yeah, everything comes back to coding. I think if we're going to take one thing away from what Chris told us was everything comes back to coding. And so there are tremendous opportunities for our young folks or older folks in the area of coding.
Yes, it's never too learn something new, never too late to learn something new, right? And never too early to learn something new.
Right, apparently, you know, and the kids they soak this information up, you know, like sponges. You know, I'm sure you have nephews or nieces that, you know, are masters at, you know, every single device. Yes. And here we are still trying to, you know, connect.
Yep.
So get them into it at an early age. And I think Chris shared the website, which I think we'll have up on the screen here later on.
Yep, stem.americansamoa.gov or something. Yeah. So, but yeah. I'll confirm and then put it up. Yeah.
Yeah, and so get more information there. That's a great program that they have going. And yeah, no, that was a great conversation, Ginger. I'm glad we had Chris on.
So lots of opportunities for young people, for anybody of any age, for that matter, in coding. And then there's a future to it, right? So those opportunities that come out after their training, you know, at the comforts of their homes, working from American Samoa. So I think that's the power of it too. So
yeah, that's the best of both worlds, being able to earn a stateside salary while living here in paradise. You know, you can't beat that.
Not at all. So with that, thank you for joining us in this segment of KokoBytes, where we keep your cup of Koko Samoa full and rich with innovations and creativity in American Samoa's tech community. Soifua.